Hello, my lovelies. Jenny O here, the author with no last name, and I just want to kind of show you my t-shirt. I'm wearing my skull t-shirt today. So anyway, just want to show you my t-shirt. Isn't it cute? You can't see my t-shirts when I'm sitting down like this. Anyway, so today I want to talk about hot labor. Well, autumn. And where we are with the strikes. It is Monday, September 18th, 2023. And according to news sources, the WGA and the Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television Producers are going to be going back to bargaining on Wednesday, the 20th, I believe. And I was going to wait until Wednesday to record this video, and I realized I would have to be like waiting till like 9 o'clock at night to be able to find out what happened, and I was just like, I don't want to do that. So it's Monday, and let's give me some color on my lips. So first, before we really get into the news, because I have some good news and I have strike news. And so I have seen this question being asked, and it finally got asked of me. The question is, why don't writers go get other jobs? Now, it took me a little bit to realize why this question was a combination of frustrating and really pissing me off. And I realized that it is the wrong question, because it is once again a question that puts the onus on the workers, which is something we really like to do nowadays for some reason. The question we need to be asking is, why can't the corporations pay their workers? The answer to that is corporate greed. Very easy. So let's continue with the trend of taking the onus off the workers and putting the onus where it belongs, on the corporations and the CEOs, who are getting record salaries, and the corporations are making record profits. And I do not know an industry off the top of my head that is not exploiting their workers, because record profits are unpaid wages. That's the way it works. So the question is, why won't the corporations pay their workers? Not, oh, the workers should move to another field and be exploited there. So I have good news. At least if you're American. The American Department of Labor, the U.S. Department of Labor, has created new rules which make it easier to form unions. So if you are forming a union in your workplace and your union bosses try to union bust, they automatically get the union. So if you were trying to hold an election and your bosses come in and say, oh no, you can't hold the election. If you hold an election to form a union, we're going to fire you all. Oh, they're shit out of luck. They automatically get the union now. So that's from the Department of Labor, trying to push back against these really huge corporations like Amazon and Starbucks and others that are trying to form unions, and these corporations are coming in and trying to union bust before the unions are even formed. So, if you are looking to form a union in your workplace, now is the time, because the rules are now more in your favor. The Secretary, Treasury, I believe her last name is Yellen, and I think her first name is Janet. Janet Yellen has come out to say that unions are the only thing that's going to kind of save the worker economy, the labor force economy. So there's not a lot that the United States government can do to encourage corporations to increase wages and better benefits and stuff like that. There are things that the United States government can do, but there's not as much as a lot of people think there is, and you also have to have a Congress that is sympathetic towards worker rights, which we don't have right now. The Senate, yes. The Congress, they're a circus. So that is something that she said that was good, pro-union. Biden's administration has been one of the most pro-union administrations in a very, very long time. I want to say somebody was like, since FDR and LBJ, but I'm not entirely sure that's true. But they are trying to be a lot more pro-labor and pro-union than many other administrations have been in the last 40 years. So, yay! The next thing that has come out is, in good news, is the Department of Justice, the American Department of Justice, is changing the way, they've added some new guidelines to how corporation mergers are going to be scrutinized. Lately, say the last 30 years, these kind of corporate mergers have been scrutinized on will they be good for the consumer, which has led to lots and lots of big corporate mergers, lots of little companies being bought out by big corporations, and then their innovations completely dumped and buried and things like that. But it was all, oh, the consumers will have X amount of choice and the prices will go down, and lo and behold, the prices have not gone down. Oh no, we have 41% price gouging, yay! Not. So now the Department of Justice is going to look at these mergers going forward as if in the lens of, will they be good for the employee and will they be good for competition, basically the competitors of the company. So that is just kind of like the opposite of what was happening under everybody else. So we'll see going forward how this plays out. But that is good news. More good news on the litigation front. So on the litigation front, I've mentioned in other videos that there are 4 authors suing OpenAI on 2 different suits. And they are doing it to try to bring to light that, how much stealing has gone into create these data sets. And so, that's going to take a long time. But there's also now a major antitrust case coming up against Amazon, professing that they have a monopoly. And there is kind of like this petition going around, I guess, to get authors in on it and publishers in on it, to say Amazon has way too much of a monopoly over the sales of books. They can basically demand their own prices type of thing. And this is bad for authors, bad for publishers, and ultimately bad for consumers, because once Amazon drives everyone outside of business, Amazon can set its own rates, basically. And that's going to come up. So, all right, strike news. According to an NBC segment I watched, there has been 207 strikes this year. Which I don't, if that doesn't tell you what about the state of the economy, I don't know. So, like I said earlier, the WGA and the Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television Producers are supposed to go back to the bargaining table this Wednesday. But what has happened since my last video is that the Alliance of AMPTP, that long acronym, realized that they were not doing well. So they hired the Levinson Group to do crisis PR for them, which is kind of insane. And they've had their own customers, and the Levinson has their own customers coming out and going, dude, you're on the wrong side here, would you not? We use you. We are your customers. We are your clients. Could you not support the Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television Producers? And basically what the crisis management PR thing that they're trying to do is think of all the other workers. The authors are so selfish. and sadly it's working. You know, they have been putting this kind of out there. So what is going on? And the reason why things are dragging out and taking so long is that the alliance isn't actually really authorized to make these type of deals. They have to go to the CEOs and, you know, the C-suites and talk to the people in the C-suites, and the C-suites have to approve, you know, the deal in mass. And all of these different companies, Amazon, Disney, Paramount, Warner Brothers Discovery, who has lost $500 million so far to this, Paramount, all those different associated groups, they're in competition with each other. Now, they will come privately to WGA negotiators and go, what you're asking for is really very reasonable, and we can actually pay for it. It's not, you know, gonna affect our bottom line any, and if so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so would agree, we could get this out the door. It's gotten so bad that one of the companies that does who is doing the two of the Walking Dead spin-offs and Interview with a Vampire have come out, the new seasons that, and come to the WGA and to SAG and been like, look, we've got the scripts for these already written, and whatever the deal is, we will pay. We will pay it. Will you give us a waiver? And SAG is like, absolutely. So those 3 shows have been given waivers to do their jobs. Now, the other thing that the Alliance Motion Pictures and Television Producers kind of is doing, that these CEOs behind it are doing, is they're starting to suspend deals that they have with these producers under them that, you know, for television shows and for future productions. And some of these producers are like, okay, be that way. And they're turning around and they're donating to the strike funds. So one guy got his show suspended and he dumped $500,000 into the strike fund to help the actors and the writers. So that kind of backfired on them. But they're doing this, and they're particularly doing it to people who have either already donated or, you know, are big names, so that they want consumers to put pressure on these producers to say, you know, talk to the actors and the writers and make them accept whatever deal is out there, so, you know, you guys can make your shows. And the guy and the producers are going, no, they need to be paid. Okay. And kind of disappointing news that turned around to become good news. Drew Barrymore, we all love Drew. If you're of a certain age, you love Drew Barrymore. You know, she's just, even though she's a nepotism baby, you know, she had this really warm kind of reputation. And she has her own kind of talk show, except it's not a news talk show. It can be presented as a news talk show, but it's more like a late night talk show. It's under syndication with a WGA contract for script and television writers. It's not under the news group contract. That contract's up next year. But the contract up now, her show falls under it. Like, The View falls under it, Bill Maher falls under it, the Jennifer Hudson show falls under it too. And there was The View is going without writers, which means that they're crossing a picket line for the WGA people, but they're not crossing a SAG picket line, so they're like, we're not technically scabs, which is kind of ruins the solidarity of the entire movement. I mean, come on, you've got all your late night talk shows that have shut down, and you're not going to shut down because what? So Drew came out and she's like, oh, she used the PR thing of, I have to think of my crew and my, you know, everybody else around me, and I'm doing a good thing, really, in breaking solidarity with the WGA, even though I'm part of SAG-AFTRA. And so there was a big backlash on social media about that, and she has decided she's going to pause production until the strike is over. Okay, Drew, it shouldn't have taken, a whole bunch of people to push on you to do this, but okay. So that's, disappointing news that went to good news type of thing. So the other thing that's been going on, that if you pay any sort of attention to U.S. news, is the United Auto Workers have gone on strike. And what they're doing is calling like this kind of, I guess it's a standing strike maybe? They have a special term for it. And they have gone on strike, and what they're doing is they're going to kind of shut the different plants down at different times to apply more pressure to the big three automakers, because they're going up against GM, Ford, and Stellaris, which does Chrysler. And they are asking for the return of things that they gave away in 2008 and 2009 during the big crash to supposedly save the auto industry. And they gave up things like pensions and a certain amount of health care after retirement, and they had this like 4-tier system put in place for different pay scales. And this is all awful for the workers. I guess a great many of the factory workers aren't even technically full-time workers, even though they're working 60-hour weeks. That's 12 hours days, 5 to 6 days a week, 10, 12-hour days, 5 to 6 days a week, because they don't want to shut these factories down. And so what they're asking for is they want to remove the tiers. They want to remove these tiers and go back to the way they were paid in 2008, in a way so that these families can make enough money, to buy the product they're making on the line. And so far, Ford has responded by cutting 600 more jobs. What you're seeing is that these companies are supposedly making a lot of money. They're making record profits. And the corporate CEO pay is in scale with, how much money they make. But they're not making these profits supposedly in trucks. Okay, the cost of labor is 7% of the total price of your car. So yes, they can afford to pay people more. But the thing is that what they are doing is they will cut jobs, good union jobs, and they will in turn around and do a stock buyback, inflating the stock price with the payroll they would have used to pay workers. They buy back their stocks, increase the stock price, make their shareholders happy, and then they get a X amount of increase in their CEO pay. So the CEO, the big one that's getting out there and going out there is the I believe the GM CEO. She's been going out there and doing shows and stuff, and she cannot justify her 40% pay increase. She just can't. Once you get her off her talking points, she freezes. And so Biden has come out to say that record corporate profits should mean record contracts for these companies. And we should not have people working at temp jobs for 6 to 8 years so that companies don't have to pay for their health care or for pension funds or things like that. If you are making a product, you should be able to have full-time, fully paid employees. That's just good business, so that the employees can go out, they can buy houses, they can buy the product that they're making, and send their kids to college and stuff like that. Things that we used to be able to do even 30 years ago, 40 years ago, we can't do today even on 2 incomes. Because, we're using housing as investment portfolios and student loans for investment in portfolios. So the UAW is about 150,000 workers, so, about the SAG-AFTRA and WGA combined. So we'll see how long the strike lasts. They have 11 weeks worth of pay, but they're in their strike fund, but because they're going to be shutting down factories randomly, that means they'll be able to extend that. And hey, if you work at Nissan, Toyota, Hyundai, any place else, maybe now's the time to start talking to the UAW and getting your places unionized, or talking to your bosses about getting better pay. If the UAW gets what they want and the increased pay and the pensions back and the health care back and stuff like that, it's going to force these other companies to also increase their pay. And everybody's like, well, they'll just cut jobs and shut down factories and move them someplace else. They're doing that, A, they're doing that already. B, that means you have people who can't afford to buy your products. I mean, it's already hard enough for people to afford to buy these products anyway. The prices are so overinflated. You shouldn't drive a car off the lot and have it lose 25 to 50% of its value. That's insane. So, auto workers should be able to afford the product that they're making. And it is a hard, tough job. And they're not the ones making the decisions about the engineering decisions or the design decisions. They just put the car together. Okay? They deserve to get paid. It doesn't matter if you think the car's shitty and it falls apart at 70,000 miles. The worker who put it together still did a very hard job and deserves to get paid. Now, the engineers and the CEOs, maybe you need to talk to them a little about, the planned obsolescence of their vehicle. But here we go. In other news related to that, we have found a lithium deposit in the United States that could fuel batteries. It's the largest one. The last largest one I heard about was in Scandinavia, and that was like 200 years. So I don't know how many years this is going to be, but the bad news is it's under a Native American burial ground, I've heard. So we're going to have to figure that out. We're going to have to figure out some better way of mining lithium. Because lithium mining is really bad for the environment. So we need a better way to do this. So just a thought. Maybe we shouldn't be continuing mining the way we do. Maybe we need to come up with some new technologies. Be number one. Advanced science. Woo! Pretend we are who we say we are. The other thing that's going on is the air stewardesses. I don't remember which airline, but there's like 3 of them that are doing it, and one airline's already done their vote, and the other 2 airlines are up for vote soon. But 99% of the airline stewardesses of one particular airline, I think it's United or Delta, there's a CWA for the union. They voted to go on strike if they don't get their negotiations for the contracts, which, considering the pilots just averted a strike and got like a 21 to 25% raise, the airlines can afford it. So you can't say, well, we're going to pay our pilots more and then not pay your stewardesses more. Come on, the stewardesses are doing just as hard work as the pilots. Flying a plane and being in that vibration all the time, that's got to be exhausting. So that's coming up too. So that, like I said, 207 strikes, and we've still got at least 4 months to go to the year. And we'll just see how well all these strikes play out. So far, the Biden administration has been very supportive of these unions. And I know that there was the flop last year around November, or the year before last, around November, December with the railroad strikes, but that was in March. Bernie and his team got the railroaders what they wanted, and it was just not highly publicized. It was out of public view, and they should have taken a few victory laps on that one. But the railroaders did get what they wanted, so now the other railroad companies will have to increase their stuff, or else, their engineers and union workers are going to be like, we're going to go work for this railroad and leave you in the cold. So that's how it works. That is how it works with unions and labor. When you do that, it brings up everybody. So, I mean, UPS got their thing. I don't know if they're still striking out at Amazon, but they should be. There's a hospital strike in Los Angeles that's going on with the nurses. probably highly overdue there. I know the nurses unions in New York State are not that great, and because my second cousin's in one and I think my sister's in another, and the the state of nursing, the for-profit healthcare system is just awful. So if nurses go on strike, I would not be surprised. All across the country, of course, union teachers need to be going on strike. We're having a hard time getting teachers because we're not being paid enough for all this nonsense that you're putting them through. I know around here in New York, we're having trouble getting bus drivers as well, probably because they're not being paid enough. Do you notice there's a common theme here? So some of this stuff is like taxpayer supported, and of course, people don't want to pay more in taxes, but that involves having to talk to corporate greed. Again, if higher people would pay their taxes, the lower people wouldn't have to pay so much. They could pay their taxes instead of trying to go into space. I don't need Bernie to tell me I should be mad at capitalism, and neither should you. So I hope you're getting your news about this from other sources than just me. But go out and watch these news clips. Try to find more independent news sources. The big major news companies are owned by corporations that are part of the Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television Producers. So they're not going to continually bring up the writer's strike and stuff. And I mean, Bob Iger, he knows this. He knows this type of stuff works because he's in the middle of trying to renegotiate contracts with like Spectrum and another cable company for certain channels like ESPN and ABC, and he decided to withhold those channels until he got a better deal or whatever with them. And so he knows how this works. They did, when I was watching that segment, they brought up the writer's strike and how Bob Iger had said, what they wanted was unrealistic. And now he's got, the Marvel Studios and the Disney Studio VFX people forming unions. The Marvel Studio won their elections. Now they got to talk to Disney Marvel Disney to be like, okay, now you need to negotiate a contract with us or we're not going to work. And Disney is saying, and these are on the on-set green screen practical visual effects people, not the computer CGI people. That game dev stuff and the computer CGI stuff, that is being talked about. I mean, with this whole new Unity thing, I bet that's going to be really talked about soon. The people are talking, which might mean hot labor summer becomes hot labor fall, becomes hot labor winter, comes hot labor next spring, especially with TAG coming up next year. That's the Animation Guild. Oh, yay, right. So the SAG-AFTRA section, that's the voice actors for video games, is voting whether or not they're going to call a strike too. So that'll be interesting. So lots of kind of news to go around regarding the strikes, regarding the labor in general here in America. So just remember, if you are going to ask the question, why can't these people get other jobs, better jobs? That's again putting the onus on people and not asking, why can't corporations pay people better? That's the question you need to ask. Why aren't corporations, big ones, with massive amounts of profits and CEOs earning 8 figures a year, 25 million or more, why can't they pay their workers? People creating these objects that they're, selling. So there's good news and there's, we'll see how it goes news and unions sticking together. working to try to make a better life for everybody, you know, around them. I have to think of this in a positive way or else I can't get up in the morning. I'd be screaming into my pillow and being absolutely depressed. So the fact that all these unions are supporting each other and that people are coming out to support them is really great. You know, it's good to see. And if you want to help support them, you know, there's the different strike funds. The auto workers have their own strike fund. The WGA has a strike fund. The SAG has a strike fund. If you want to support them, support the strikes, donate. And, you know, nobody's called for a boycott, so, you know, buy the products, watch the TV shows, that type of thing. All right, thank you guys for listening. Take care of yourselves, my lovelies. Stay safe, blessed, and I'll see you in the next video.